This video will show you how to use the online Sendai Framework Monitor to report on Target C. This target is to reduce direct disaster economic loss in relation to global gross domestic product by 2030. It refers to economic losses to the agricultural sector, productive assets, housing sector, critical infrastructure, and cultural heritage. Target C will require data from many different sources such as health, education, agriculture, and cultural sectors. As such, it is important that you have established or that you do establish contacts within other government ministries and agencies that collect the data your country will need to report on. You may also need assistance from relevant UN agencies, such as the Food and Agriculture Organization in your country, for some of the indicators on the agricultural crop damage. Such partners stand ready to assist you should you need help. It is important to make note of the distinction in terminology between direct and indirect economic losses, as only direct economic losses are used for this target. Direct economic losses are the monetary value of total or partial destruction of physical assets existing in the affected area. Direct losses usually happen during the event or right after the event and are often assessed after the event to estimate recovery cost and claim insurance payments. Indirect economic losses are a decline in economic value added as a consequence of direct economic loss and/or human and environmental impacts, and includes impacts like revenue declines owing to business interruption, increases in government debt, among others. Refer to the TGN for other relevant definitions and terminology. Given the significant differences among data collection processes around the world, the OIEWG report notes that countries may choose to use a national methodology or other methods of measurement and calculation besides those outlined in the TGN. However, ensure that the applied methodologies are consistent across the reporting period. To begin reporting, make sure you have selected the correct reporting year. The year should reflect the year of the data and not the year that you are inputting data. For example, if you are inputting data collected from the calendar year 2017 for the 2018 reporting cycle, then the reporting year selected is 2017. It is important to make sure that the reporting year is correct every time you log into the system, as the selected year may not reset. The system uses values for exchange rate and gross domestic product inputted into the metadata to make calculations for Target C. Ensure that these values are inputted and correct in the metadata. These values should come from your country's National Ministry of Finance or other official government body that holds such information, such as your country's national bank, economic or financial institutions. Indicator C1 is a compound of indicators C2 to C6, which means that data does not need to be entered for C1. If you enter data into C2, C3, C4, C5, and C6, the system will automatically calculate the value of indicator C1. If you would like to see how the system calculates this figure, you can find the formula in the technical guidance note for Target C. The value calculated for indicator C1 will be reported for related indicators of the Sustainable Development Goals, as noted by this SDG icon here. Please note that due to complexity of the calculations for Target C, the system will not show the calculated figures in real time. Indicator C2 measures the impact of disasters on agricultural production and assets for the reporting year. It is the sum of 7 sub-indicators: C2A, direct aquaculture loss; C2C, direct crop loss; C2FI, direct fisheries loss; C2FO, direct forestry loss; C2L, direct livestock loss; C2LA, loss of agricultural assets; and C2LB, loss of agricultural stock. The methodology to assess economic losses of the agricultural sector for indicator C2 has been developed by the Food and Agriculture Organization and UNISDR. We recommend that you work with your country's Ministry of Agriculture in reporting for C2 on data collection and how to input this data, as well as involve relevant UN agencies like the FAO for assistance. To begin reporting for C2, select your data entry option. The first option of enter monetary value and hectares manually requires you to have data on economic valuation of direct loss collected in your country. If you have selected this option to enter monetary value, input the monetary value in your local currency unit, or LCU, into this box, and the system will convert this to US dollars based on the exchange rate inputted into the metadata. The second option of having the system calculate monetary value should be chosen if you only have values on physical damage. For example, if you have the number of hectares of crops damaged or destroyed, number of livestock lost, or number of hectares of aquaculture production area affected, choose this option and the system will calculate the corresponding estimated economic loss. If you have selected option 2 for data entry, enter the number of hectares of crops damaged or destroyed by disasters, as well as the total number, including damaged and destroyed, for C2C. It is important to note that calculations for monetary values will take some time to be reflected in the monitor system. Disaggregation for C2C is optional but encouraged. Your country coordinator will need to set up disaggregation for the different crop types relevant to your country under Disaggregation Metadata, Agricultural Crops. We recommend that you use pre-selected disaggregation categories which will enter relevant data from the FAO database. For example, clicking on Select Agricultural Crop will give you an extensive list of crop types that you can disaggregate by. By selecting crops that are relevant for your country, the system will automatically input information on average size, element unit, units, number of workers, information on equipment and infrastructure, and average damage ratio for each crop. This information is based on calculations from other sources and is sufficient for reporting purposes. You can choose to manually enter a crop type if the crop you are looking for is not available in the predefined list. However, please make note that all of this information is necessary for the system to calculate loss for that crop. Whichever crop types are selected in the disaggregation will show up in the disaggregation list for C2C, and you can input total damaged and destroyed hectares of the crop type here. You can continue to disaggregate loss of crops by hazard type and geography. For more information on initial setup of the monitor, please refer to Module 3. C2L is the loss of livestock attributed to disasters. If you had selected to have monetary value calculated by the system, simply input the number of total affected and lost livestock in these boxes. In this context, lost refers to livestock that were killed by disasters. Similarly, disaggregation by livestock is encouraged. Your country coordinator should add disaggregation categories for relevant types of livestock in the monitor setup. You can then input the number of total affected and lost animals for each livestock type. Reporting for subsectors forestry, aquaculture, and fisheries follows the same manner of reporting. Enter the number of total damaged and destroyed hectares or other unit in the boxes for each sub-indicator. Disaggregation for each of these sub-indicators is recommended. C2LB, or loss of agricultural stock, is the production damage of all agricultural sectors, namely crop, livestock, forest, aquaculture, and fishery. Stock includes stored inputs such as seeds, fertilizers, feed, and fodder, as well as stored production such as crops, livestock produce, fish, and logs. C2LA, loss of agricultural assets, is loss of damaged or destroyed assets like machinery and facilities of all agricultural sectors. Your country coordinator should set up disaggregation categories for these sub-indicators as well.